What makes Michigan so special? It starts with the small towns. Weave them all together and a tapestry creates superintendents who have to double as bus drivers because there is that need.
And innovators. When trains stopped coming to a depot, Williamston had to find a way to keep people coming. In this special edition of Focal Point, we put the spotlight on these stories. Welcome to Small Towns.
No matter where you are in Michigan, each person in each town has a story. In Lansing, a real estate agent is literally saving history.
Not realizing that there was an interior designer that was laying dormant at that time.
We got to find a field that's open, and he wants to go out and practice.
You'll get a kick out of a story in East Lansing. In football, you get first, second, and third down. Then what? A high school senior is making fourth down the best down.
I really like punting. I'm hoping to play at the Division I level somewhere next year.
And from a cemetery to a missing headstone to fudge making, it's all the ingredients of a century-long mystery.
When we learned that there was a monument out there that belonged on a grave, then we wanted, of course, to see what we could do to put it where it belonged.
This special edition of Focal Point starts now. And welcome to a special edition of Focal Point. I'm Ian Gilmore.
And I'm Reagan Holgate. Today we focus on small town stories, and some of those stories make big headlines. A headstone missing for 150 years and now found. I had the chance to spend some time at Mount Hope Cemetery, where that once missing gravestone has been returned to its rightful place. But you won't believe what it was being used for.
This was completely underground.
It's the burning question that has haunted Loretta Stanaway for months.
Was this the right monument for the right person? Was this person actually buried here?
In 1875, Lansing city workers moved all the bodies and headstones from Oak Park Cemetery to the new Mount Hope Cemetery. Well, all of the headstones except for one.
His, somewhere in the transition, ended up missing.
Peter J. Weller's headstone had been missing for a century and a half.
146 years. This is the monument for Peter J. Weller, who was a pioneer in the city and a Lansing businessman.
The stone surfaced in an online estate sale auction.
A former Lansing resident living in California saw it and thought, you know, that's a pretty weird thing to have on an auction site, and maybe it belongs on a grave.
After doing some digging, Loretta found out the headstone has quite a history. An Okemos family had been using it for decades as the perfect cold stone to make fudge.
So
and for those who make fudge daily, like here in Holt, the marble makes all the difference.
Gonna cause it to get thicker.
The white marble slab at the backside was used for many, many years in that family to make fudge for the holiday season.
It is something of a mystery. The family has no living relatives, so the Friends of Lansing's historic cemeteries took over. They held a dedication in his honor.
We also talked about the life of Mr. Weller and his descendants and what they contributed to the city.
They, of course, had to have some fudge.
I said, don't worry about it. You just take your fudge. That's what you need.
But for Loretta and the rest of the friends, it's not just about the fudge. It's about remembering Peter J. Weller and his family.
They were bankers, they were business owners, treasurers.
He is now home at Mount Hope Cemetery with his 2 daughters and daughter-in-law.
I think there's a wholeness, a restoration, a correcting of some wrongs.
Leaving behind a sense of closure.
I think he feels restored.
The Weller family's history goes way back here in Michigan, and this story reminds folks of all they did for the community. And for the Friends of Lansing's historic cemeteries, Loretta says there's a feeling of wholeness now that they've brought the family back together.
What's in your job description? Do you have to multitask? Well, McCoy Scribner is in the newsroom with a unique story about a superintendent that has to go the extra mile in his job. McCoy.
That's right, Ian. Normally he's behind the desk, but after school lets out, he takes the wheel, and it's not to drive home. Here's where the Byron Area School superintendent goes.
I get a wave from them that normally the superintendent probably doesn't get.
Bob Cassidy is driven.
I'm the superintendent of Byron Area Schools since January of this year.
There are worker shortages everywhere, even in the small village called Byron.
After joining the district in January, Superintendent Bob Cassidy noticed a lack of staff in his bus fleet, and he wanted to step up.
His 8 full-time drivers had dwindled to just 5, so he took the wheel.
This is just one more way of serving the community.
From his desk job to the driver's seat.
I drive number 2 over there quite a lot.
It's not really anything foreign to the super. He used to drive semi-trucks, so driving a big yellow school bus comes easy.
That experience is helpful for this, definitely.
Throughout his career, whatever job he had, Cassidy went the extra mile.
There's value in what everybody's doing. You know, we're all on the same team, we're just doing it in a different way, that's all.
Students are getting to school because of one major driving factor: the superintendent.
It matters what you can do, especially, you know, being in a small district. You wear a lot of hats, and, you know, rather than close something down, why not fill in?
Other school districts find themselves short-staffed too. If you're looking to help, you are encouraged to reach out to your local school district. You may not find yourself driving a bus like in the Byron district, but there are other opportunities to help. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, McCoy. Well, from a yellow school bus to a red fire truck, there's a new fire chief in East Lansing, and it's historic. The new chief got to the top with hard work, climbing the ladder for years.
Focal Point's Isabella Martin introduces us.
It may seem quiet inside fire station number 1.
Every day you come in, it's never the same thing, and you never know what's going to come through.
But between calls, they're training. Chief Don Carson is always pushing the firefighters here.
She was hard on us.
You heard her right. She's talking about Chief Dawn. That's D-A-W-N, who just became the first ever female fire chief in East Lansing.
As well as the metro area, which includes Lansing Township, Lansing, Meridian, Delhi Township, and Delta.
She's been climbing the ladder to get here for 22 years.
In the fire service, we try to treat everybody as family.
Starting as a paramedic and then working as a firefighter for decades.
One day somebody found an ad that this fire department would hire in 1 year a paramedic firefighter, so I just quit my job, went back to school, got both of those. This is his pack.
Suiting up for every call.
Very few females, relatively speaking, are in this field.
These days, the chief's new job is more administrative duties, and she's earned it. But for 22 years, she put this 70 pounds of gear on daily.
We just have to hit people at a younger age to get their interest in doing something like this. It's a very physical job.
Just like today, watching her firefighters train in hazardous material suits, just to be ready.
And they're in full PPE here, so nothing gets through their gloves, their boots, and their mask. They're fully encapsulated. But it's not
the
total
oxygen
prevention.
tank, boots, and the rest of her gear may not get much use these days. And instead of training with her crew here, it's mostly meetings down the hall. But she's still doing all of that under the same roof, the house she loves, fire station number 1.
We're like a big family here. Things happen, you improvise and you go with it.
In East Lansing, Isabella Martin, Focal Point News.
Isabella tells us that when she left the fire station, Dawn was headed into a meeting. And that seems like it's par for the course these days for the chief.
It would seem as so, but she still carries that 70 pounds of gear with her in the trunk of her car.
From East Lansing, we head a little east to Okemos and Meridian Township, a mecca of retail shopping, including the Meridian Mall.
And as malls struggle to survive, they're coming up with new ways to attract tenants. Focal Point's Chandra Fleming is live now at a new place in the mall that aims to be a destination of entertainment fun. Chandra.
Take a look behind me here, Ian and Reagan. Don't you guys wish you were here right now? I am standing in High Caliber Cardigan Entertainment, and you guys just missed it, but a group of individuals just went crazy on the track. But it wasn't always like this. Take a look. Malls are changing. Entrepreneurs are taking closed stores and opening places like this. High Caliber Carding and Entertainment winds through the former Old Navy and a couple of other stores that recently went out of business.
This is addicting. Owning a business like this is addicting.
General Manager Zach Bingham says bringing joy to customers is what it's all about for him and the company.
I talked to the president of the company before we even opened anything up here, and I asked him, I'm like, what is your goal here? Like, what do you want to do? And he looked at me and he goes, I would rather break even and see people's smiles on their face as they're leaving the facility than be a profitable company.
And the workers have fun here as well.
And working here, it's like working with a family.
Whether you come alone or in a group, there's something for everyone, including axe throwing.
High caliber carding, you're allowed to throw one-handed or two. It doesn't matter to me, whatever's comfortable for you, okay? I get to do this every single day. I've been doing it pretty much my entire life, so this is a comfort thing for me, and I get to teach other people how to do it as well.
Many parts of the location features local artist touches. High Caliber Cards and Entertainment was one of the first locations that CBL Properties allowed a tenant to paint the outside of their building. Here behind me you can see some graffiti art that was created by Burbcat.
The standard is good, but we want to be above the standard because we are high caliber. We're not just a caliber, we're high caliber. We're the best of the best, and we want to be the best of the best.
The space is great for parents, kids, and young adults. Don't forget to bring your game face. Package prices can be found online alongside concerts and other special events. Well, guys, my time here is up because I have to go put on my helmet because I'm about to go get on the track. Live out here in Meridian Township, Chandra Fleming for Focal Point News. Ian and Reagan, back to you.
Thank you, Chandra. And yes, I would very much like to get out in a golf cart there right now. Coming up, people in Williamston are going back in time. Find out where you can look at cool mid-century pieces that date back to, you guessed it, the 1950s.
And here's a kicker, but he's a punter. Are you confused?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We will explain. Focal Point's special Small Towns is back after this break.
Life hasn't been the same since COVID. We all know that. The pandemic has affected each of our lives differently. Some have lost loved ones. Some have lost their jobs. Some have lost out on important milestones like graduation. Some really adds up to most. Most of us have been affected in some way with this pandemic. Stop the spread and mask up.
Mask up so I can travel. Mask up so I can go to tailgates. Mask up so I can go to concerts.
Mask up so I can see my family.
Mask up so we can live again.
Welcome back to this special edition of Focal Point we call Small Towns. We wanted to shine a spotlight on the people of Michigan's small towns.
And Lansing sure was small when architect Darius Moon started building houses here over a century ago. The first home he designed was almost torn down. It would have been lost forever. But then, as Focal Point's Asia Lawrence reports, someone came to the rescue.
My name is Elisa Flowers.
When Elisa Flowers was a child,
I mean like 10, 11.
She wasn't like her friends.
We passed them constantly on our way to church.
It wasn't dolls and video games that inspired Elisa. It was wood and brick in the designs of the neighborhood.
Not realizing that there was an interior designer that was laying dormant at that time.
On those drives, she'd look out the window at the houses on the street and the designs of them.
It wasn't cookie cutter, and that was the beauty about the houses back then. They weren't cookie cutter.
Maybe that's why she's a real estate agent today. But this house on MLK Boulevard spoke directly to her. It's a house built by Darius Moon, a known Lansing architect who built over 260 homes in the 1800s.
When I went there, I had no idea that the interior was so dilapidated. I hope that's the correct word to use.
But Elisa saw the beauty. The house probably would be demolished if no one had bid on it at the auction. So Elisa stepped up.
Scared out of my mind. First auction I've ever been to where I bid on something that meant so much to me.
And she won. She didn't plan on going over $10,000 for it, and she didn't have to.
What price can you put on adding value to a community?
Elisa Flowers has big plans for this gem in the rough. Today, when she drives by, she can hear its voice.
Look at me. I've been here since 1875 and I'm still standing.
In Lansing,
through all the weather, the toil, the turmoil, I'm still standing. So I can't wait to get it done.
Asia Lawrence, Focal Point News.
With the support of the community and her family, Elisa plans to have the house completed within the next 2 to 3 years, fully equipped with a livable space, a bakery, and a co-op.
One of the closest small towns to the Michigan State campus is Williamston, just a few miles to the east. And one of the stops you can make by car used to be a stop that passenger trains used to make.
It's the Williamston Museum, which started out as the Williamston Depot. Focal Point's Riley Wolfbauer is live in Williamston right now to take us on a trip back in time. Riley?
Yes, Ian, I am standing in what used to be the main office of the old Williamston Depot. The depot closed down in 1963, but then was bought by the city to be refurbished and turned into the museum in 1979. This is what the museum looked like as it was up for demolition. The museum opened up in 1988 and is now displaying history of the city in exhibits like this. So, all on board, take a ride with me through the city. In the 1950s, folks came to this building to catch a train. Today, that's just a memory, but memories saved. These days, the Williamston Depot takes people on a trip back in time. Sue Neller has been a part of the depot board for the past 3 decades, collecting Williamston artifacts for what is now the museum.
I'm probably one of the longest members of the depot board.
They've collected artifacts ranging from an old graduation dress to guns used by soldiers during World War I.
I like saving things and keeping them and putting them in perspective for what they meant at the time they were new.
Over the years, the museum has collected pieces of the original telegraph that operators would use when this was still a working train station. Operators would stay all night and all day, and they would get news from the war, and they would also get news about trains, of course. They also tracked down older members of the community to teach them about the city's history.
We still have quite a few elderly people who went to these schools, and it's wonderful. We've done some oral histories with them to find out what it was like.
Sue's goal is to get more people to visit the museum.
They think it's a bunch of old stuff, like they got in Grandma's attic.
You probably won't find a World War II musket in Grandma's attic, but you will here.
We wished we were open more, but we're all volunteers and we all have jobs, so that's hard.
The Depot Museum hopes to inspire more of the community to come out and learn about the city's history. The museum is open on Wednesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. and the second Sunday of every month from 2 to 4 p.m. And speaking of museums, just 11 miles down the road, Molly Gundry is live on Michigan State's campus, home to the MSU Museum. But this museum has a new exhibit focusing more on the present and future. Molly?
Yeah, Riley, technology has completely taken over the world. And behind this nondescript door is a room, and it's full of it. And if you take a look over here, there's a monitor with not 1, not 4, not even 9, but every single security camera in the building. This place is completely covered, but what a lot of people don't know is how surveillance affects our everyday. At least I didn't think so until I went to the MSU Museum. The exhibition is examining the good, the bad, and the ugly of surveillance.
It's fall semester on MSU's campus, and students face commitments, deadlines, and issues. And this building, tucked in the center of campus, is addressing them.
Well, Science Gallery is a space that is dedicated to exploring the ideals and issues that people between the ages of 18 and 25 face.
The MSU Museum is changing. And Antoine Scott is doing it with a new exhibition, Tracked and Traced.
So we had a conversation with people from our demographic in that community, and from that demographic, and surveillance was a top issue that they were interested in exploring.
Students grew up with technology, along with the good, the bad, and the scary that comes with it.
So we give up so much of our data and we give up so much of ourselves. What does it look like within this experience of an exhibition to actually come back and actually reclaim some of that agency, reclaim some of that data?
The exhibition uses light and dark to showcase the positives and negatives of surveillance.
Sometimes there's really positive aspects of surveillance, such as the utilizing of cameras and other technologies to stay in communication with someone.
Creative director Mike Sullivan shows a piece examining how surveillance and data can be used for good.
In this case, you have someone who decided to use common off-the-shelf surveillance hardware and software to kind of turn the tables on surveillance, and instead of using it to control him and his friends, he used it to inform his friends and relatives that he was okay during COVID.
With good comes bad, and the second half of the exhibition examines the dark side of surveillance.
So your walk is just as unique as your fingerprint, and there's always a way to be discovered. And so, yeah, we just want to explore some of the ways to reclaim agency via programming and to also be more educated on the topics of surveillance.
As the museum keeps changing, Antoine hopes to continue its evolution with the next exhibit.
So Science Gallery will continue exploring with the museum as a whole surveillance through the lens of scientific observation.
Be sure to check out the Track and Trace exhibition before it closes on December 11th. Hours are Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Ian, back to you.
Thank you, Molly. Now, you'll get a kick out of this week's Focal Point finale. You rarely see their name in the headlines unless they did something wrong. But East Lansing's Evan Sunderman is making a name for himself as one of the nation's top high school punters. The story of his practice routine and how he puts his best foot forward has a bit of a twist. When East Lansing gets to fourth down, they rely on Evan Sunderman.
There we go. I get in and I see the returners like 30 yards deep, and I know I can hit it way farther than that.
He plays wide receiver, but his foot is what's getting attention these days.
I've got 3 Division II offers as well right now.
He's a 5-star punting recruit. 2 weeks ago, he boomed a 65-yarder.
I mean, that was a great feeling.
Evan got his start just from watching videos on YouTube, and now he's one of the top high school punters in the country.
Basically right now, if I catch it like this, I'm just gonna turn to get the laces up.
It takes a lot of practice, and it takes a special person to cheer him on. Out on the practice field with him today, his mom, Tanya.
I mean, I'm always shagging punts and, snapping to them and stuff.
This is not a new thing for them. Tanya helps out Evan just about any time and anywhere.
It's not bad.
Every place we go, we got to find a field that's open, and he wants to go out and practice.
Even when they were on vacation in the Upper Peninsula last year, Tanya and Evan found a place to practice.
And we found this football field at the Munising High School or whatever, and the wind, you get the Lake Superior wind and stuff.
It helps Evan.
Like those moments when it's just the two of us, and there's not real high stakes, and I feel like I'm kind of helping him a little bit, are probably some of my favorite moments.
But it helps Tanya too.
Good hit.
She lost her dad, Evan's grandpa, last October. Watching Evan play was his favorite thing to do.
He was always clapping the loudest and always yelling the loudest, and so, yeah, it's been a little bit emotional feeling like he's been gone.
Playing Division I is a goal for Evan, and it's still his grandpa's dream.
When he does go to the next level and be able to play, that was something my dad always talked about, how cool that would be to be able to watch him. So, yeah, but I'm sure he's making Grandpa proud.
Making Grandpa proud.
Oh.
One kick at a time.
Right at the 2. There we go.
And those relationships with his mom and grandpa are more valuable than any of those college offers. I know I'll certainly be watching where he goes.
Oh yes, definitely. And in our business, the last story in a show is called The Kicker. And your punter was our kicker.
Hey, pretty good one at that, too.
Right, very good at that. And so from coffin corners to missing headstones, we wanted to shine a spotlight on the people from Michigan's small towns.
We hope you enjoyed our trip around the back roads of mid-Michigan. I'm Ian Gilmore.
And I'm Reagan Holgate. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time.